you ready, good sir?
Aye.
Anthony, you weren't saying any introductions. Are you okay to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Anthony Brown. I'm the chairman of Preston Windrush Generations and Decendants UK. I'm also the co-founder of Windrush Defenders Legal. And I've been very much involved with the Windrush schemes and helping people to deal with some of the problems that they have around Windrush. So I'm dressed like this today because I'm trying to invoke a memory. Many of you have seen the pictures of people coming from a ship called Empire Windrush, and they were just quite sharp. But nowadays, the young men seem to be letting the side down. And I just wanted to remind people that when we came in our Sunday best. We came because we wanted to create a good impression of where we'd come from, and also about what we wanted to do. We wanted to build a new life, and we wanted to create. So we've heard the word Windrush talked about a lot, but what is Windrush? Windrush comes from the name of a river in the Cotswolds, but it's also the name of a ship. Now that ship was a German ship during the war, but it was captured by the British and renamed MV Empire Windrush. And in 1948, after the war, a lot of servicemen had come to the UK to fight in the war, and they'd gone back to the Caribbean, mainly Jamaica, to pick up their lives. But the government decided, hang on a minute, we need these men back again because we need to rebuild the country. So this ship was sent to Jamaica to pick up passengers, the ex-servicemen. But the enterprising captain decided that there was space on the ship, so he advertised in the papers for seats and sold them at about £28, which is about £1,000 in today's money. People sold their one cow or whatever they had and got a ticket and got on the ship. And that led to a new wave of African Caribbeans. I mean, there were also some Poles on the ships and others, but it was mainly African Caribbeans that came over on the ship. But that wasn't the first time that African Caribbeans had been coming to the UK, because they'd actually fought in the First World War as well. When the Empire called, we came and we defended the country. But even before that, Africans have been associated with the UK because, don't know if many of you are associated with or remember the Somerset case. The Somerset case is a famous legal case in 1772 of an enslaved person. His owners wanted to take him out of Britain to the Caribbean to resell him. And the courts, the campaigners against slavery at the time had a case brought to court. And the master of the rolls at the time, the leading judge, was called Lord Mansfield. And he ruled that England's air was too pure for such an odious institution of slavery to exist. And so he declared that the person had to be set free because England didn't recognise slavery here in England. We hear all about the slave trade and so on, but that only occurred in colonies. In England itself, they didn't recognise slavery. And so that was the Somerset case over 250 years ago. But even before that, we're in Preston, so I should mention there was a famous Battle of Preston in 1648 with none other than Oliver Cromwell. and he defeated the Crown forces. He led the parliamentary forces and declared the first Commonwealth. And he sent off the English Navy, built it up, and in 1655 sent it off to the Caribbean to attack the Spanish Empire, because he decided, why should Spain have all these, these possessions? And so he attacked Hispaniola, but that failed. So they fell back and captured Jamaica in 1655, and that's how Jamaica became part of the empire. Now Scotland didn't become part of the empire until 1707. Yet they talk about, the old Commonwealth as being Australia and Canada and so on. But Jamaica and other Caribbean islands began to become part of the empire, and they created so much wealth, the British Empire, that when it came to a battle of the Saints in 1782, the Navy again had to defend it against France, and they defeated the French, and therefore the Caribbean was really what produced a lot of wealth for Britain to then go on and take on the rest of the world. Moving forward then, we have people coming here in 1948. It was a year where the British government said that all the people who live in the UK and live in the Commonwealth are going to be citizens of the United Kingdom and colonies. That's the British Nationality Act of 1948. But then when people came and settled here, the laws changed, because as each country became independent, they were made citizens of that particular country. So I was born a citizen of the United Kingdom and colonies. I was then made a Jamaican without notice. I told my dad. And then later on, government passed a new law called the Immigration Act, 1971. Now, immigration acts only apply to foreigners, don't apply to British people. But because the islands had been made independent, people had been made Trinidadians, Barbadians, Jamaicans, they now became subject to immigration law. But the immigration law said, well, you can live here indefinitely. But the fine print said if you went out of the country for more than 2 years, you'd lose that residential status. And I fell foul of that, because my dad went back to Jamaica on a contract for 2 years, then extended it. By the time I got back, I'd fallen foul of the immigration law. And I wanted to go to university, and the Home Office wrote back to me and said, no, you're an illegal immigrant, you need to report to Manchester Airport to be deported. Obviously it was a big shock, absolutely frightened, told all my friends, I said, well, you grew up here, went to school together. It was a matter, immigration now law applies to me. My brother, who'd stayed here, didn't apply to him. But eventually we campaigned, and Mrs. Thatcher said, all right, you can stay on compassionate grounds. And so then I was able to say, so, we've rolled forward to 2018. We have 7 years ago, the Windrush scandal arose, came to light. Many people didn't know how many people were in a similar sort of situation. They'd been deporting people, they'd been putting them in detention. Some people couldn't access the NHS, they lost their jobs. It was just a human rights crisis. We think that this happens abroad, but here it was. People who were British citizens, people who had come here to help Britain in very difficult circumstances and had been treated so badly. The government apologised and created what they called the Windrush scheme, which meant that if you made an application, you could get citizenship status back. I think Glenda's mum applied under that scheme, or Glenda assisted her. She was able to get her citizenship back. Sakina's daughter had difficulties, and she was able to address that through that scheme. And that's how Preston Windrush Generations and Descendants was set up, because we decided that we were trying to raise awareness of this and to help other people. So the government put in place these schemes, but they also did an investigation, and they produced a report called the Windrush Lessons Learned Review, and that made 30 recommendations about how the Home Office needed to reform and so on. But the government then went back on 3 of the recommendations. But there's a new government in position now, and I'll just bring you briefly up to date. They call it a VSET, and what the Home Secretary has said is that they're going to re-establish what they call the Windrush Unit. The previous government had scrapped that. That looks at continuing the reforms in the Home Office. They've appointed a Windrush Commissioner, so that's someone that is going to look at the schemes and the complaints about that and make recommendations to the government as to what changes ought to be made. I'm pleased to say that one of our network, persons in our network who got it from the Windrush National Organisation that we set up after the scandal came to light. So Reverend Clive Foster, he's based in Nottingham. He's now the Windrush Commissioner. We've worked with Clive over a number of years, so we're happy with that choice. And also the government has announced £1.5 million of funding for grassroots organisations like ourselves that have been helping people voluntarily over the last 7 years. They're now saying that we can apply for some funding to help our costs. And so looking forward, we feel there's more to be done, because every time you affect a member of a family, it affects the whole family, and also it has a knock-on effect on the whole community. And so we see that there's a disproportionate numbers of African Caribbeans that have been affected. You look, the British Empire has about 2 billion people in it, but a third of the people affected are African Caribbean. How do you manage that in a number so big of 2 billion? So there's some disproportionality taking place there, and it's because of the way the laws were designed. And we're saying that if the laws were designed in an immoral way, then surely we shouldn't be trying to achieve an immoral standard. We need to reform the law. So we're calling for a Windrush Act that will restore the status of people from the British West Indies more easily. And we're also saying that because of that ripple effect it had on the community, we ought to look at the disparities that's in education, in health, community cohesion, criminal justice and work. Because the government keeps statistics, and they all show that the Caribbean community at the bottom of the league in all those data sets. So we want to see that we can work with the government, work with the local authorities to move up the league tables, if you like. So that's our vision for the future. We call it burning work, and we're hoping that people from the church who have a passion to see their community advance and improve will be in touch with myself and Glenda to see how you can support our objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Andy. Extremely informative, that was as well. Thank you, much appreciated. Well, I'm wanting to. My name's Ronald, member of this place, the Adventist Church, and I wanted to kind of briefly look at an observation